Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another night of Sci-Fi Vision's Fandom Access. We got it straightened out before the show went live, and I remembered to hit go live this time, Jamie.
Good. So sorry, everybody, if you were here and we were a bit late, but we've got it straightened around. So thank you, everybody, if you're there. I am, just so you guys know, I do not have access to all the controls because I'm on the iPad again because my computer just today got fixed back up. So I'm not in on there. So, but hello, Ark. They are there. Oh, there we go. I can do that at least. I can put people's comments up. So I'll take care of that. All righty. So tonight we have the beginning of Echo and Disney or Marvel's new show. And What If. I have at least seen 2 more. And then I don't know what else you guys have seen. I'm not entirely sure, but
Karen has herself muted. Karen, do you know you have yourself muted?
Yeah, I muted myself while I was trying.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I was wondering if you were like sitting there talking, going, "Why can't they hear me?"
No, I'm here. Hello, you guys. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good.
Good. So, before we get started, I wanted to ask you guys: did you watch the Emmys this week?
No,
I have not yet. I taped it. I haven't watched it yet.
Really? That's very interesting, Jamie, that you taped it.
DVR'd it, not taped it, but yeah.
Well, because have you been avoiding like all the news about what the winners were, or you just want to see like the dresses and stuff like that?
No, I don't watch the awards that much anymore, to be honest, because usually it's not for stuff that I watched anymore, at least not recently. But I've spent the whole last couple days trying to fix my computer because my motherboard finally came in. So I've been kind of away from everything a bit. But I did see the one thing that won. I don't know if you're... I saw something about... I don't know if it was... See, though, I think I'm getting mixed up between Critics' Choice and Emmys because I think both were like this weekend, weren't they? Or were this week or something?
Yeah, so here's what happened. The Emmys usually are shown in September, and because of the dual strike that happened through the summer and the fall, they were postponed until this week. So it's very uncommon for the Emmys to run in the middle of award season. So you're getting confused because the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards just happened like a week ago, and then the Emmys were on Monday night. So that's kind of maybe what's confusing you. What's also confusing you is that pretty much all the same, everybody won all the same awards.
Same noms.
Yeah. I wanted to ask if you guys watched it, partly because I didn't think you did, because I have not seen...
Daniel Radcliffe was on one of them. There was something about that. That's the only thing I've seen.
Well, he
was about the whole Weird Al thing, but I don't know.
That won best like made for TV movie.
Yeah,
and he might have been nominated, but I have not seen anything that won anything. So The Bear, Succession, and Beef like pretty much won all the awards in all 3 of these award shows. I've not watched any of them, and I haven't. So I saw like Pedro Pascal was nominated for The Last of Us, and I think Bella Ramsey was also, right. But other than that, I haven't seen anything. I really brought it up just to mention that the Emmys, the Emmys audience, they dropped to an all-time low audience for the Emmys this year. But it's probably because it was the middle of award season, right? Like usually the Emmys sit by themselves in September and they're the only awards thing until like January, when January and February is when everything else is. So the Emmys usually like pretty much own September. So they also were up against Monday Night Football, which doesn't usually happen to them. Or if it does in September, like who cares about Monday Night Football in September? It's like preseason, right? Mm-hmm. So they were up against Monday Night Football, and they were in the middle of this. So the audience was below 5 million, I think, and it was like the 5th low in 6 years. I don't know. I just brought it up because, like, do you think interest is waning in these shows? Is it because the same 3 shows win everything? I don't know. I just kind of brought it up. It's the big TV news.
I think it's waning because nobody cares about the award shows anymore.
I don't know. Usually the shows I watch aren't on, so I haven't watched it much for a while. I admit I need to watch the award shows, but I just haven't been.
Well, it's true. Science fiction and genre television is not usually like up there for a lot of awards. I mean, The Last of Us being an exception, and it was. I think it's up. It's been up for best drama. I think I have to pull a list of nominations for the 3 shows right now. And Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, and that's a great show, and it deserves the nominations. But it's not going to be like Succession, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Barry, or I mean, there's many good shows. I also saw an article that was written by where did this article run? I left it up because I didn't want to. So Hollywood Reporter ran a story that was like, how in the era of, if this is peak TV, how did 3 shows win like every single thing? If there's so much great TV, how come only 3 shows win everything?
It's a popularity contest.
It's a popularity contest. So this writer for the Hollywood Reporter, who I should say their name, Scott Feinberg, posited also that, like, look, even if you're a voter, even if you're an Academy voter or an Emmy voter, you can only watch as much TV as a regular person can watch, right? Like maybe maybe you watch a little more because you have a job, but like maybe the voters have the same problems we all have, that like there's so much TV, you can only watch, you can watch. You're only willing to pay for so many streamers, and like if there's a big strike and the writers aren't and people aren't doing press for it, like maybe you're just like the rest of us and you only watch what you watch and know what you know, and you can't consume it all. I don't know. It was interesting coming from an outlet like the Hollywood Reporter. It's an interesting article if anybody wants to look it up. But I didn't watch it. I usually watch the Oscars and that's it. I don't watch the Grammys. I usually watch the Emmys.
Yeah, I tend to more watch. I'm more the opposite. I tend to watch the stuff for TV rather than film. So,
well, it's usually fun
if
to watch.
I watch it, it's going to be the TV stuff.
The Golden Globes are kind of fun to watch because you never know who's going to be drunk and what kind of disaster will happen at the Golden Globes, right? That's the one where they're drinking the whole time. So
yeah.
Well. Anyway, all right. Anyway, I did look at pictures of all the best and worst dressed the next day.
Nice. I have not.
Yeah, I looked at the dresses. I'd like to look at the different, like, actually.
Sorry, we don't have much to contribute to this, Karen. I feel like Karen's talking.
All right, moving right along then. Let's move along to our.
No, I didn't mean not to talk about it. I just meant I'm sorry I don't have anything to contribute. Ark is asking if we watched. Whoops, I put it on there. If we watched the Saturn Awards, what's
Are they
I don't know what that is.
Are they?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. What is that?
Are you guys doing another Saturn Awards?
I'm trying to think. I should know what it is, and I'm not even.
Nope,
I'm blanking as well.
Well, I'm not aware if they're on television, but they're awards that are much more going to. They're the Academy of Science Fiction. Right? Science fiction. What's it called? Science fiction, fantasy, and like.
Oh, okay. But it's not something. That's why it's not landing with me because it's not something on television. I see what you're saying. Like it's not televised.
The Saturn Awards. I guess so. They're not like necessarily shown on television. They are streamed, I guess. And I just pulled it up to. Thank you for mentioning it. They're going to be streamed on February 4th. Are the Saturn Awards. And you can stream it online. So, no, I've never watched it. I wasn't even aware. I mean, I see the awards come out every year, but
I see when they have who won, but that's about.
I wasn't even aware there was a broadcast.
We'll have to check that out.
Yeah. So maybe we can talk about that after they run in February, because their nominations are out also. And like best, it covers film and television. So. And there are horror categories, there are adventure categories. It really like covers a lot more of what we would watch.
Is anybody what's nominated? Did you look it up? Did you see
what's
nominated?
Best sci-fi TV series, they've nominated Andor, Foundation.
Oh God.
The Mandalorian, The Peripheral, Silo, Star Trek Picard, and Star Trek Strange New World. So I've seen all of them, right? So usually, like in the Emmys, I haven't seen any of them. In the Saturn Awards, we've seen all of those, right?
Well, I've seen Peripheral.
I've seen all
I've been bad this season with what's no. I've seen Foundation. I've seen some of them. Peripheral's the only one that stands out that I really like.
Well, you might
another show they canceled.
They break it out, Jamie. Yeah. So there's a category for best fantasy TV. So that includes Ghosts, Good Omens, House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings, Mayfair Witches, Schmigadoon.
Okay,
right?
I have seen a lot of this stuff then because I've seen. You were saying that. I'm thinking, wait, I've seen Silo too. Yeah, I've seen a lot of it. But
and then there's a best horror.
Good
TV
Omens
series.
is awesome. I'm sorry.
So there's also a best horror category, which American Horror Story is nominated. That must be for last season, since this season is right. But horror includes Chucky, Fear the Walking Dead, From, Interview with the Vampire, The Last of Us, What We Do in the Shadows. So so this is a category where we and our audience.
We'll have to. Maybe we can cover that. That's a lot of good stuff. Yeah, The Last of Us and From. Obviously, we both of them
we've all watched a lot of this.
Yeah. I just wish I lately had time for more television. I guess is what I want to say. Is I wish I need to start having time to watch. Like I've been so busy because I know I bought not that long ago. I bought the 4K Last of Us, and I haven't even opened it yet. So because I know Max is taking off the 4K. And I wanted to watch it again and then wanted to see the bonus stuff. So I bought it and I just haven't even, considering I haven't even watched Doctor Who, the new one since Christmas. That tells you how much I've seen TV lately.
Well, I'm going to pop the Saturn Awards. I popped the Saturn Awards website into the chat so you can see what's nominated and read all about it. I don't know, Arc 54, do you watch it? Arc 54 brought it up. Have you ever watched the broadcast? If you want to just comment in the chat anything about it when you have a chance, that'd be cool. I've never watched it. I do watch streaming TV shows, but I've never watched like a broadcast on streaming before. So
right, I've watched. There was one of the award shows I did once, part of it, but more the red carpet than the actual. The actual words part of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll table that until it comes up, and you want to jump into it?
Sounds like a plan.
Sure. We'll do first Echo.
Yeah, let's go with Echo.
All right. Now, how many of you guys seen?
I have seen all of them. I sat down and watched it all in one night. So the one show I did watch. Yeah.
I've only seen 3. I got halfway through episode 4, so maybe there's only 5, right? So we can maybe cover the first 3
tonight and 2 next week.
And I understand episodes 4 and 5 are the best 2 episodes anyway, so we'll cover them next week.
Okay. Well, if I go too far or whatever, just yell at me. I apologize. I'll try to, because I'm not. There's no way I'm going to remember what's what unless you tell me where it ends.
Okay. So the first 3 episodes cover up to and including the incident at the roller rink. And episode 3 ends, I believe, when Maya comes home and sees Kingpin standing. Right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So you at least know that he's back. That
I think we knew.
So we know he's back.
Yeah, we did.
We know the first episode.
We knew.
Yeah, but she didn't know it. I guess I should say. Now she knows it.
Yeah. We knew when we saw the IV dripping into his arm in episode 1.
Pretty much.
So I made these nice little slides here with there's the logo. They actually have there's a cool piece of marketing artwork where they have the word Echo, but it's in American Sign Language. So you see a hand making the E,
cool.
which is pretty cool. But it's vertical and it didn't fit nicely on the slide, so I didn't include it.
Speaking of, and I know you won't know what AJ, you haven't seen it all either yet, right? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I haven't seen. I haven't seen episode 5 yet.
Okay. You won't know what I'm talking about. I mean, I was going to say something that wouldn't really spoil anything. It's about sign language, but you wouldn't make sense until you'd seen it anyway. So I'll just hold off on my comment. But yeah.
Okay. Well, So this is kind of an interesting show, and like when I first started watching it, so episode 1 is kind of interesting the way that it was both prequel and recap in a sense, right? Because Maya is being spun off from Hawkeye, which feels like it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I did not remember anything from that. And I remember texting you guys. I was a little confused. And I'm like, was this in the show? Because it seemed like so much happened. And then all of a sudden it like switched over to, like you said, kind of like acting like we had already seen it. And it was very confusing. I mean, I get why they did it that way, but I almost wish for people who hadn't seen it, maybe they had just made it more of a linear episode, or maybe put the recap at the beginning, because it was a little disjointed to me. Did it feel disjointed to you? At least it did to me, just a little bit, like the way they presented it, I guess.
Well, so Hawkeye was released in late November of 2021. So it has been just over 2 years since we watched it. So I can't blame anybody for not remembering it.
Right.
AJ, I don't know. I always ask you about the comics, and I'm not really sure how much of a Hawkeye guy you are. And Echo, I know that you've. I mean, I don't know if you read Daredevil or you just see shows, but you're always a little more enmeshed in this than Jamie and I are. And I don't know how much came back to you right away.
I remembered everything.
I mean, I remembered it, but like when I saw her, I was like, oh yeah, the tracksuit mafia, right? Like it came back to me as I watched it. I couldn't have told you before episode 1. Like I couldn't have recapped Hawkeye. But it definitely came back to me. It did feel a little disjointed. I think anybody who had not seen Hawkeye, I don't think you need to watch Hawkeye to watch. And I think it almost could have confused you more to watch that segment.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not that I'm saying it confused me, their explanation or anything of that it happened before. It's just the way they presented it, the way that it kind of jumped around, since it was like catching up with what we saw before, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Well, and that's the thing. You got like what we saw before, how the show started. It kind of then caught up to what we saw in Hawkeye, and then continued on from there. So I understand what you guys are saying.
And then they kind of jumped. I'm just saying the way that they did it, to me, the way they had it put together was a little disjointed. Like I would have rathered it be like one continuous narrative, and like I kind of get that it couldn't be, but I don't know. It was a little weird. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't something that like lasted or anything.
You know what caught me off guard? Disney Plus had naked people.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, technically, it wasn't graphic. Or
I know.
You say that.
No, I know. It was just funny. I was like the first couple minutes, I said to Artie, I was like, "Did you put the right show on?"
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Just to cut in a second, because it's been a couple minutes, and I apologize. We missed Ark's comment, and obviously this isn't about Echo, but was saying that the Ark had been nominated. And
where did you see that?
Watches the stream, so yeah, she's seen that. So anyway, sorry, just wanted to cut in and say that she does watch it. So
yeah, I mean, I think that as I started watching it, I guess part of that was just I was like, oh my god, here's another show where you have to I'm just getting so irritated at Marvel at the proliferation of stuff I have to watch, like just to keep up with it, because this person might be in the next movie, right? And there was a little bit of that for me as I was watching this in episode 1, but for me it quickly settled down, and it all kind of came back to me from Hawkeye as I watched it, and the prequel of. Is it a prequel? I guess it is. Like the scenes of Maya's early childhood, and how she comes to move to New York and be in the Kingpin's orbit was kind of was good. I think. I mean, I thought it was pretty good. The very beginning, where the opening scene is like this Choctaw origin story of how the first Choctaw people and the ancestors came and everything. It was a little it takes a while for you to see how that is relevant, right? Like it takes that's threaded in through the episodes. I think coming on the heels of having just watched What If, which includes a not Choctaw, I forget what native people that
I don't know what cohort he is.
I forget what it is. It'll come to me in a minute. But having just watched that, I literally watched that earlier today or last night, I was like, wait a minute, like I guess I had it in my head that this was gonna be like a superpower thing or something, right? Because in What If, it's like all about but so in the first few minutes is when it was giving me like, wait, what? I gotta remember all this. But it actually like fits in kind of nicely, I think. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think it's a big part of it, but I've seen how it plays out. So,
I mean,
it's obviously a big part.
I mean, in episode 4, I've seen the beginning of episode 4 where, there comes an explanation sort of why Maya has these visions. But, anyway, so that, the setup is actually it ended up being pretty good, I think. There's a picture here that I have up as Alaqua, I think is how you say her name. Alaqua Cox is the lead actress, who I was not familiar with right before the.
No, I was not either.
I'm not sure.
Well, that's because her premiere was like her first acting gig was Hawkeye.
Oh, okay. So she was really. I don't want to say she was discovered, but this is her breakthrough role in these 2 shows. She's great. I mean, in general, the cast is really good, I think. And there are some kind of like major stars in it. Graham Greene is in
McLaren and Graham Greene. Yeah, I was going to say.
And Tantu Cardinal is in it, she plays the grandmother. She's in Killers of the... She has a very lengthy filmography, and she was most recently in Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, I think they're all really great. And I think the show, I think Hawkeye did a good job. And I think that this show is doing a good job with the sign language,
Yes. And Alaqua, if I'm saying her name right, Alaqua, we apologize for saying it wrong, but she is deaf in real life too.
She's also,
so yes, she's also an amputee.
She's Native American, and she's an amputee, and she's deaf in real life, and which is great.
It's great. They get the representation.
Well, and she's a good actress.
Good. That's what I was saying. She's good in the role too. Yeah. It's not just that.
So, I mean, I think, that's all. Let's see what else do I have here. Oh, here they are. Here's the cast. So this is from episode 1 where you see kind of the whole important cast assembled there. And then, we learn about, so this is a picture actually, that picture is actually from episode 4, I think, of the Kingpin, who's really not a factor in these. He's a factor, but he's not, he doesn't really come back. He's unconscious. He's presumed dead for much of the series. I remember when we watched Hawkeye, AJ said that you really loved Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin, right? Did I make that up? Did I hallucinate?
Nope, you didn't make that up. No, I thought they did a great casting with him. I thought he did a great job portraying Kingpin.
And he's nailing like the comic book Kingpin for you.
Yeah, he's actually I feel like they've even gone further with D'Onofrio. Like he's really fleshed out the character. I mean, the character has always been very layered. I mean, he's been around since early Spider-Man comics. So he's been around a long time.
I think he does a really good job of making the character empathetic through parts of the series too. as much as he's like the villain. There were times when I kind of like feel a little bit for him because he seems to really care for her as much as he's insane. But that's neither here nor there.
One thing I've appreciated about the show, I think it's kind of cool the way they implemented the Native American heritage into the show. Through the first 3 episodes, each episode has started with the ancestor, and then it's kind of like worked its way into the present day with Echo.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, because she doesn't exactly have, like, the ancestry type thing sort of is the superpower in a way. Like, it's hard to explain, but because she doesn't have any, like, powers, like some of the not that all the superheroes do, but I mean, I didn't realize. I don't know if I really thought she would or not. I really hadn't thought it through. But she doesn't have like super strength or speed or anything like that.
That's actually a change they've made to the character in the show. In the comics,
it is.
She's kind of like Taskmaster. She can mimic fighting styles, and in the show, obviously they changed it to her having her abilities from her ancestors, which I think is really cool. I think it's a really cool way.
I don't know why I was thinking that like there was some kind of, I don't know. I thought maybe there would be something to do with like echolocation or something. I don't know. Not that I really knew or looked into it. I just kind of expected something. I don't know. But I like the way. I mean, it works the way they did it. It's cool.
For me, it doesn't. To me, I was very disappointed when she, in episode like 2 on the train, where she appears to manifest some powers. One thing I really liked about Hawkeye and about the early episodes of the show is that she is just a human without superpowers, and that like her deafness is her advantage in some ways, just as Daredevil's blindness, like gave him an advantage, right? Although, does he get actual powers? He's just a guy who can fight. Really, like his blindness made him develop like really
his other senses.
Yeah.
I liked the sort of and again, watching this coming on the heels of like we're going to talk about the back half of What If, which I hated partly because how I hate an overpowered hero, and when she had those glowing hands and she's able to like break the train cars apart, and she appears to have powers, I was like, oh, they're ruining it. Like Marvel just can't go with like, I don't know. There was like something I really liked about them not having powers. I mean, Hawkeye doesn't have powers and Natasha doesn't have powers, but they work alongside the Avengers and are equals, right? And it's disappointing to me to see. Now, I haven't seen the end of the show, but I was a little let down when they started to give her powers.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much you understand about what's going on, so I don't want to comment too much because I've only seen right. But I mean, in my mind, it's like one story, so it's hard for me to figure out if you know exactly what it is that's happening.
It's actually really funny because when that happened, when she got those powers, I looked at Artie and I was like, what the hell is this? Because she doesn't have powers per se like that in the comics, so I was confused. But I appreciate what they're trying to do with the Native American heritage. I kind of get what they were trying to do there. So on that
and I think by the end of the show, it
actually having powers
through a little better.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you guys also about the notable. What else? What's my next slide here? A picture of. Oh, so this is perfect. That was a great scene. My question for you, well, what I wanted you guys for us all to talk about was the noticeable uptick in the violence. This is maybe the most violent Marvel. Like, I've never seen so many people get shot in the head in Marvel, right?
Yeah. This is TVMA.
Yeah, and I think it's the first for the Marvel Universe, right?
It is the first. Yep, it is the first one.
It's I mean, it's not. It didn't bother me. Did it bother you guys? It's not gratuitous.
No.
No, that bowling alley fight scene was great, though.
It was great, although not as good as the warehouse. The warehouse, there's a very long, there's like one continuous take in the warehouse for like almost 4 minutes, I think, or longer. That's an excellent fight scene. And this, the one in the bowling alley is very good also. It's a little more edited. It's still good. And I enjoyed it. So many fight scenes are so highly edited that you can't really tell what's going on, and you can't really appreciate the. Remember how I complained about what were we watching? Where I just complained about that movie we watched where there was so much slow mo, and they kept cutting the slow mo in the fight scenes on a close up. That 3-part movie that we just watched about like that wannabe Star Wars movie where I complained about the guy's teeth in slow mo going across the. Come on, what's the name of that movie? It's a 2-part movie that we just watched.
We did. You're saying
wait? Are you talking about? Come on. Are you talking about Rebel Moon?
Rebel Moon, yes, Rebel Moon.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet either.
I must have been talking to Tom from. Must have been talking to Tom in the bar about it. That I was really complaining about how the fight scenes are like many movies and shows that you watch today. The fight scenes are so highly edited, and you get so many quick cuts. Because I guess the people can't really fight, that you can't really see it, right? I really appreciate. Anyway, I'm babbling, but I appreciated this fight scene. There was some cool stuff.
Karen, let me ask you a question because you posted this picture. How far does is that from the last episode you've seen? How far into it this
occurs in episode 3, I believe.
So have you seen the results or not the results, the outcome of the whole?
She basically beats everybody up and kills some of them or whatever, and then that guy with English accent has her friend at gunpoint, and it looks they're gonna be killed, and then Kingpin calls and calls them off.
Okay, the reason why I was asking is you were talking about and saying about her not being able to hear being maybe an asset in times. I feel like there was part of those scenes when she was able to communicate, and even when her friend was able to communicate with the other guy with sign language, sometimes that became a benefit to them because they could do things without the other people knowing, and they were able to kind of time what was happening in that because the other people couldn't didn't know what was going on. But anyway, that you were talking earlier about that. It's sort of those scenes sort of played into that. Also, in a roundabout way, I said that weird, but
also in the scene when Maya first escapes, she turns the music on full blast, to confuse them and conceal her any noise she's making as she sneaks up on them. Right? She blasts. Yeah. Kind of it reminds me in that Audrey Hepburn movie Wait Until Dark where the killers break into her apartment, she turns out the lights because she's blind, and it's to her advantage for the lights to be out, right? Similar thing.
Yeah.
Similar thing. So yeah. So
what are you doing, Karen? What are you doing?
I'm not
chopping onions.
I'm not. I think that's not coming out of my house. I don't think that's coming out of my house.
No, it sounded like you were walking around doing something as you were talking. That's all.
Oh, I did stand up from the couch. Sorry.
That's okay. It sounds like. AJ's in a tunnel and you're chopping onions. So there you go.
No, I'm not chopping onions.
Okay.
So, Jamie, I don't know. Anything else you guys really liked about it? I always like also AJ to hear how Artie liked it. Our resident teenage commentator.
Yeah.
He's really enjoying it. Damon likes it. I like it, but I just.
You don't like it, huh?
No, I didn't say I didn't like it. I'm enjoying it. It's entertaining.
You like it, but you don't love it. Is that it?
But I don't love it. I'm not like, oh my god, this is so great. I don't have that feeling about it. Like I said, the fight scenes have been great. I mean, it looks wonderful. But there's nothing really that gripping about the story to me that's like, oh my god, this is amazing. And everybody's doing a great. All the actors and actresses are doing a great job. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's just, I guess the story isn't really.
But it's also, well, I want to say maybe it's too, because it's not like a, it's a new superhero. It's not somebody we really have seen before or anything. I don't know. I watched it all in one night, so I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I obviously enjoyed it.
Other than Kingpin showing up in it, which I knew was going to happen, it feels very disjointed, I guess, from everything else.
Well,
like it doesn't
the other
feel
Marvel
connected.
stuff, yeah.
Maybe that's. It
doesn't really feel like a Marvel show. Like, I will say that. Like, I don't.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I'm just saying.
Like, it didn't feel Marvel
like
doesn't have a very good track record right now.
Well, no, but I mean, even like Hawkeye felt more Marvel than this did. Like, this felt more, and yeah, you're right. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, it did not necessarily feel like you were watching a Marvel action series. But it was good. I mean, I liked it, but yes, it wasn't as much. I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. Like, it wasn't as much like suspense and like high. I mean, some of it was. Don't get me wrong. Like, we're looking at this picture. Obviously, there was fight scenes in it, but there wasn't as much of kind of that boom, 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 pow, pow stuff as much as some of the other series.
So I mean, it's a small story. It's not the fate of the planet like it is.
Right.
That's a good way to, yeah.
I would also say, I mean, AJ, to your point, Maya's plan, I mean, if I think about it, it doesn't really make that much sense, because if you think Kingpin is dead, then it's over and you're free. But she mentions early on that, like, the Kingpin is over. It's time for a queen. I guess I thought she was going to try to take over his territory, but then she left. I don't know. Is his territory the whole country? Like, I don't know. Because she leaves New York. She goes to Oklahoma. And then she puts a bomb in the train car that that it blows up the warehouse in New York or whatever, right? And, like, I'm not... Like, as I'm recounting this, like, I don't really know what the point was or what she's trying to accomplish.
Even though she thought the Kingpin was dead, the Empire was still there. So she's trying to take out the Empire.
But is she, though? Because she said he had his time. It's time for a queen. I thought she
I think she's not. She's doing. I don't want to say she's doing bad, but she's not all altruistic for a while.
What's her goal?
Yeah,
I feel like that's in episode 4, though.
I don't know which episode it is, but I feel like she was
yes, because you saw part of episode 4, and you're running into that. That's from episode 4.
In episode 4, he shows up.
When she's talking to Henry. When she's talking to Henry, you're talking about.
In episode 4 begins with her having dinner with
on the top of the on the top of the thing, not the building, on the top of the.
No, that's in like episode 2 or 3. Yes, when they're up on the water tower, and she says he had.
Well, that's when they have that conversation. Is when they're on the water tower.
Yes. What's the next slide? That slide's not supposed to be in there. How did that get in there?
Grogu.
That's left from last week. Sorry, I just can't ever have. I'm gonna put Grogu in every slideshow every week.
You need to like Photoshop him in and hide him in the corner or something.
One thing I forgot to mention that I thought was really cool. I like how each episode started. How the Marvel Spotlight was different each week depending on the time period of the cold open of the Ancestry.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah, showing the different ancestors. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the cold open was done in that way. Like they had the silent film opening of Marvel Spotlight during the when they did that one flashback that was a silent film type depiction. And
so Marvel Spotlight,
pretty cool.
Marvel Spotlight is new. This is the first show from Marvel Spotlight.
Second.
What was the first? Hawkeye?
No. Werewolf by Night.
Oh, Werewolf by Night.
Which actually, there's a good example by comparison. I mean, that was a Spotlight movie, so I guess it is a little different.
Well, because Marvel Spotlight is a like a comic series, and then like Marvel Studios is doing Spotlight also, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know what's going on anymore. They had a plan where they were going to do shows like this, where they just focus on one character for a limited series and move on, you know, and then the next Spotlight would be a different one. And they recently even had talk of doing that with the X-Men, introducing the X-Men through Spotlight before doing a movie.
Really?
And but then I heard that they're doing away with the Spotlight because Silver Surfer was supposed to get one, and that's been canned. That might have had something to do with the writer's strike. I don't know. So I mean, I'm not really sure what their plans for the future of it are, because they've kind of been bouncing around with things in it.
Because I thought it,
but I like the idea.
It was kind of supposed to be more of these. I don't want to call them standalone, but they were these more character-y kind of things that weren't necessarily part of the big like MCU multiverse blah blah nonsense, right? But then of course we did see in episode 1 Daredevil appears. I've been waiting for him to reappear, or I guess somehow they're gonna there'll be some future something or other with them, I guess. So the idea of not having
a little random.
The idea of not having a larger Marvel connectedness seems to be a lie. I don't know. Maybe these two do work together in the comic books, and I'm just not aware of it. AJ, are they pals in the comics?
They've been a little bit of everything. They've been enemies. They've been friends. They've been lovers. You know. So.
All of that. Okay.
Murdoch gets around.
Okay. Well. So. I'm anxious to see the next two, because I had read some advanced reviews that said episodes 4 and 5 were really the two best of the season. And so we'll cover those two next week, I guess, which anybody who's listening and thinks this is a fascinating conversation we're having can catch up and watch the first 3 and then join us for the next 2. And we can maybe move on to our next show, huh?
Yeah.
Which is What If?
Well, we got a Grogu.
Which is not Grogu.
It's not Grogu. It's What If.
It's What If. So,
yay.
So
I've seen the next 2. And if you guys obviously can talk about the rest of them, I don't care. But I've seen through the next 2.
Okay, well, yeah, so that means...
Actually, I don't think I've seen the last few minutes of the second one, now that I think about it. I was doing something, I had to... It's been a long week. But I've seen most of the next 2.
That's okay, Jamie. That's perfectly okay.
At least I have a computer now. That's all I have to say. At least there was a point to it.
So that means... Jamie, you saw episodes
the one with Tony, the one with like Stark and the Grandmaster, and then the one with Peggy Carter.
Okay, what if Iron Man crashed with the Grandmaster, and what if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have mentioned last week that I was not a fan of this Grandmaster episode, and I had to watch it twice.
I actually liked it. I thought it was pretty funny, but I really like
it was funny.
What's his face? I really like Korg.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, but I really like Korg. I thought a lot of their stuff was funny, but yeah, I mean, a lot of that was like, I mean, it was kind of silly funny, but I liked that episode. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, AJ, did you enjoy it?
I didn't hate it. I mean, there hasn't been any episode that I've seen.
But like
there haven't really been any. I mean, it was comical, which is what I think made it entertaining.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
I didn't really get how. The one thing that confused me actually was how the Watcher starts out talking about how Gamora's. It's a story about Gamora, but her story happens through. But her story happens through somebody else, and I'm like, that's just that's dumb.
Yeah,
I
like
was
why
like,
didn't they
okay,
just
if you
make
say
it
so.
Stark's story? That would have made more sense in that.
But
With the
like I said,
description.
it was entertaining. I feel like I was watching a pod race.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely wacky.
You know, and it was, you know, like I did not like any of the episodes, but it wasn't like, ooh, that was a really awesome episode. It was average.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But it was
Did
funny.
you like this one a little better? What if Captain
Yes.
Carter fought the Hydra Stomper?
I didn't, but
anytime I could see Peggy.
I've never been like a Captain America, Peggy Carter super fan either. So.
Oh no, AJ
that
and I
didn't
both
surprise
love her.
me. Yeah, I know. Well, I never
Peggy
seen
Carter,
the series, so I only saw what was in the movies, and I've never been like super huge on them. So
anytime I could see Peggy Carter kick ass, it's a good time.
Yeah. And this was a little throwbacky to some previous, like, right? Like to some previous to last season. Yeah. Like he became the Hydra Stomper and they were on that ship and they fought the squid and all that last season. And so this is like you know, they find Steve again inside the Hydra, skinny Steve inside the Hydra Stomper, and he's been missing since like 1953. I kind of like this
Michael
one.
Likes Peggy. Now, I think Michael saw at least some of these what ifs he was saying earlier. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, Michael has watched What If.
He's probably ahead of me.
Yeah, we love Peggy Carter, and I mean I loved her on the Peggy Carter.
Watch the series.
I loved her on the Agent Carter series, but I like her in What If. We've seen her as Captain America in What If season 1 and in What If season 2, and I particularly liked her last season. I still like her this season. I like this episode. I like the What If episodes that are a little more. I don't know. I like Natasha and Peggy as like BFFs teaming up, and I like when it's really like, what if this happened? What if Steve didn't become the super soldier and Peggy did, which is what we saw in season 1, right? And then like this continues it.
You know what else I liked about it is Steve has kind of taken on the role of Bucky, because Bucky survives. Bucky doesn't become Winter Soldier. Instead, Steve becomes the Hydra Stomper.
Yeah. Bucky goes on to become the Secretary of State. He doesn't. Yeah, there's no Winter Soldier. I like when. Gee, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Not that they're more realistic, but when they're more tied into larger Marvel storytelling and they kind of make sense. Rather than episodes where it feels like all the ideas the interns had that didn't get used, let's like stir them up into a pot and make a story, which is kind of what happens later on. Yeah, I like this. The only part I didn't really like is like I don't like when Peggy addresses Nat as Widow. Sometimes she calls her Widow most of the time. She rarely calls her Nat. And I'm like, gee, Nat never calls you Captain. But and I liked the Red Room. I liked the Red Room because we just saw that. I didn't we just see it. That movie was the Black Widow movie was a while ago, right? But we all kind of should remember.
It was kind of cool the way they tied the Red Room into it.
Yeah, and she has to fight Melina. I mean, I like those. I thought some of my favorite animation in this series has been in season 1 and 2. Peggy Carter fighting and Nat fighting are some of the best animation we get, I think. We've talked about how the animation this season isn't switched up as much as or at all, really, the way it was last season. But we had some great shots of Peggy fighting, and particularly of Nat fighting the other Black Widows, where it was kind of some cool animation. Like when they all like have to leap over that fence. Some go under the fence, one goes under the fence, one goes through the fence. That was a cool shot. I don't have a picture of that because I only use what Disney puts on their press site. I didn't like screen grab anything from the TV. I don't know how to do that, even if I wanted to.
We don't want to take anything we're not supposed to anyway. So people can pretend.
It's all been released. It's probably fine, but I don't know how to do it anyway. So but I do like some of that animation. I liked all those robots. I also liked like that sort of John Mellencamp town they talked about.
Yeah.
Chance for Peggy to drop some popular culture references in there. It was pretty good. It was, Jamie, I don't know if you saw the next one. Is this the next one?
No, I did not. But that's okay. You can talk about it.
The next episode is What If Kahori Reshaped the World? And it is
wait, who's it about?
Kahori.
Her name is Kahori. She's a native, young Mohawk, Native American Mohawk woman who.
Oh, so it's not one of the characters we've seen before then in like Avengers and stuff.
No, she looks like this. So in this episode,
that's kind of surprising though that they use somebody we're not familiar. Well, I mean, I'm sure some people are familiar with her, but I mean, like not from the regular.
Is she from the comics, AJ?
Yes,
she is. Okay, so let me summarize this for Jamie and anyone else who's listening. Basically, what happened is like. When Asgard got destroyed, the Tesseract like flew through it blooped and it landed in this lake in like North America. And so
this is only in the what if universe though, right? This didn't happen like
yes, what if?
In the what if
universe. I just want to make sure like it wasn't something I missed that I'm like, wait, what?
No.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just making sure.
That's when you went to the bathroom during Loki.
Yeah, I was just making sure. Go ahead.
No, the Tesseract like flies out of during Ragnarok. It flies out of Asgard and it lands in this lake, and the lake becomes magical. And it's kind of like this hidden lake. But what happens is,
but it's because the Tesseract it cracked when it fell in the lake.
Yeah, so it cracked. And the lake is like magic, but it's like hidden in a forest and it's a forbidden area, whatever. It's like a legend. Nobody goes there. What happens is, of course, the horrible Europeans come, the Spanish conquistadors come, and they want to they're looking for the Fountain of Youth, which, okay, that legit happened. The Spanish came to Florida, right? Ponce de Leon was looking for the Fountain of Youth or whatever. And they're basically jerks who are going to shoot all the native people or whatever. They shoot Kahori. She falls in the forbidden lake. And because the Tesseract is in there, she goes through a portal and goes to do you remember when in Westworld they went through that portal? It looks like they're walking between a cliff and they go to wherever the robots go in the afterlife. It's kind of like that. They go through this portal to this place where they don't age, they don't die, and they all have powers, and it's all perfect, except Kahori is like an annoying, I have to go back. She's like Jack from Lost. She's like, we have to go back.
No, the Tesseract is the Mind Stone, right? Just to remind me, because I am not know as much Marvel detail as you guys. No, which stone is it then? Am I mixing it up?
The Tesseract.
It's got one of the stones in it, though, right?
It has the blue one in it. It has the Infinity Stone in it.
Oh, I was thinking it was the yellow one. I'm mixing it up then.
No.
Okay, it has a stone in it. Okay.
It's that blue.
Don't mind me then. I was thinking Mind Stone.
The Tesseract is isn't it that? Okay. The Tesseract is that blue staff, right? That has the stone inside it.
No, it's the cube.
That's what I was gonna say. I thought it was the cube Loki had. I thought it was the Mind Stone. Yes. I was mixing up which stone it was then.
It's the cube that Loki tried to get that caused him to go to the TVA caused him to be in the Loki show. It's the Tesseract,
okay.
So
it isn't relevant anyway. I'm just curious, but go ahead.
So anyway, wasn't she was kind of like Jack, she makes this friend and he's like, it's beautiful here. It's perfect. It's a perfect world and you can never leave, but just learn to enjoy it. She's like, we have to go back. We have to go back and help them and save them. And they're like, Jack, shut up. And she's like, no, I'll go by myself. So anyway, that's kind of what it's about. AJ, one thing I objected to, I alluded to it earlier, is that everyone has powers, but Kahori gets superpowers, and she's basically almost invincible, right? I understand I was gonna say like her powers are almost infinite, which is dumb because I guess like the Infinity Stone could whatever, right?
Yeah.
But make you infinite. But I don't like an overpowered hero, and that's kind of what she is, right?
I agree that I don't like an overpowered hero, much like what we ended up getting in Secret War.
Yeah.
Or not Secret War, Secret Invasion.
Secret
Invasion. I don't feel Kahori is overpowered. I mean, who she was fighting, she was able to take out rather easily. Because they didn't have any powers. So I don't feel that she's overpowered, though.
Okay, but you know how everybody else can only run as fast as the regular buffalo, and they can only get one buffalo fruit out of them? And then she can run like faster than everyone and get like 14 buffaloes. I mean, we have a commenter, iBeamer, doesn't think we've seen enough of her peers to say she's overpowered. That's fair. Maybe the other people, we didn't see them do things she did, but maybe because they don't feel they have to, they don't want to go back. They're happy. They don't want to have to, but yet. And I don't know if you've read the comics, maybe she's not like that. I feel like,
well, I think
also
part
Michael
of it too,
answered my question. It's the Space Stone, not the Mind Stone. Not that was relevant to anything. I just was curious.
I'm going to put it in writing next time. I said it, but I don't think anybody heard me.
I mean, in the comics, is she?
The comic, regardless of the comics, what we saw on the show, I feel like part of the reason she was so powerful is because she believed more, because she was so adamant she was so adamant about going back that everybody else was kind of like, all right, let's go with her. So I felt like that's why she was a little more overpowered, because she was a little more
like nobody else was able to go back before her because they didn't try as hard as she did.
She was more determined than her. Yeah, her determination, I think, is what makes her seem a little more overpowered than everybody else.
I guess, to be fair, her determination is based on, at the moment she came through, her village was under attack and her brother was possibly being killed, whereas maybe everybody else just randomly fell in the lake, right? And weren't like so upset and worried about saving their entire nation or whatever of people. Maybe, okay, I could see that. Maybe she's like, not that she's more determined because she's like a stronger person or a better person or whatever, but she had a higher motivation to return, maybe, and to use those power, right? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't aware that there was anybody like this in the Marvel comics, and
well, in the What If there is,
but she's in a comic book. She's in the What If section of the comic. What If is a comic arc. Yes, you're right. Okay. I kind of liked it. I mean, it was kind of nice getting to see all those Spanish guys get like. I really liked when they like stampeded that guy. They just stampeded that guy till he like sunk down in the sand. And
I was laughing.
And then he and it was cool when she did like a Neo, like, you know how in the Matrix when they shoot bolts at Neo and he puts out his hand and stops them, except Kahori.
I thought the same thing.
Right, except they're cannonballs. Coming from like a ship, which was kind of cool. I mean, I don't mean to complain about her. I do like Kahori as like her personality was kind of good, and I think they did a pretty good job. Very much of this episode is in Mohawk, the Mohawk language, and all the Mohawk characters speak I mean, pretty much the entire episode. Is there anything? Okay, it's all in Mohawk, except when the Spanish people speak Spanish. There's like no English in this at all, except when the Watcher speaks, I guess, right?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's no English in this episode.
You know, you say that reminds me that you said that. I remember reading something about Echo that they're going to be presenting it completely in Choctaw too, or something. Can't remember if it was something about that they were. Yeah. Now don't quote me. I don't remember even where I read it, but there was something there I remember reading about that they were going to be translating it or presenting it or something like that, for that, which was interesting.
I mean,
because I remember seeing it somewhere. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You said that and you made me think about it.
No, that's interesting. I mean, I gotta give Marvel credit for that. So I don't really love everything Marvel does, and I think they did a good job with this. That they did this whole episode that I didn't even really realize there was no. I mean, I knew that it was mostly in Mohawk, right? But
I agree.
I don't think I realized there was no English in it until I just said it to you.
You have to be really into a show to not notice that it's not English, you know.
Honestly, until Carrie just said something, I don't think I noticed either. Because I was really into the episode.
That shows it was pretty good. So,
I mean, it speaks to like them doing a good job and telling a good story, and it's not a gimmick, right? They're not like like this could be dangerous and be done badly. Beamer thinks Kahori's an original character, and this was her debut. So I guess you mean that she was not in the What If comic series. She debuted in the What If show, which is kind of cool. They did a good job. I did notice in the credits sequence, they thanked like some, I got to look it up to get exactly the wording right, but like some Mohawk, people, artists or authorities or whoever like helped them on this episode. They did a good job. Yeah, no English. I got to give Marvel credit for that. It was a nice episode. And it was, in my opinion, the last good episode, because after that came, okay, this is not horrible, this episode. The next episode is What If Hela Found the 10 Rings? And so Hela gets banished. Like, you know how in the Dark World, Odin banishes like Hela because she's like too bloodthirsty. And so in this version, Odin banishes her and strips her powers, but he curses her basically, and he kind of puts a curse on somewhat. He's like, only if she knows mercy can she wear this crown again or something like that, right? And she ends up in medieval China and meets Wenwu, right? So this was a little kooky, but I don't know. Did you like it, AJ?
It was okay. It felt it was basically Thor's story, but with Hela instead.
Yeah.
You know, instead of the hammer, it was her crown.
So when Thor gets thrown down to Earth and he meets Natalie Portman in his first movie, it's basically that story. Look, I was blown away. I cannot believe they got Cate Blanchett to do the voice I cannot believe they got her to do it.
Why not? They've gotten lots of other people too.
I don't know. They couldn't get Robert Downey Jr. They can't get a bunch of people. Everybody's not in it. I
say 80%
right?
of
They can't get. They don't get Anthony Hopkins. Doesn't do Odin. They don't get everyone. They did get Idris Elba for this episode. I just couldn't believe they. First of all, Cate Blanchett is.
I'm sorry, like, I was just gonna say I missed Beamer's one comment on the last one. I'm sorry, I did not see that.
Karen mentioned it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah,
well, you didn't. I don't think you put it on the screen. Didn't see it come up on the screen. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with at least with the comments on the screen.
I just feel like every time I turn around, Cate Blanchett is spending a year and a half making an Oscar-nominated movie. And I just can't believe they found that they got her to do this. It's great. The Dark World is not my favorite movie in the Marvel stories, and Hela is not my favorite character. But I do.
It wasn't the Dark World.
It wasn't the Dark World. It was Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
It's Ragnarok. See, it's not my favorite movie. She's not my favorite character. I do like what Cate Blanchett does with her, and I was impressed they got her for this. And she was good. But you're right. It's like when Thor gets banished and he has to go to Earth and learn some things before he can like wield Mjolnir again. And there's this kind of whole sequence where she has to, where like Hela has to like learn martial arts, but she has to also learn like not just martial arts, but she has to learn this like internal, like, I don't know, how to control herself and how to be at peace. She has to learn all this like meditation kind of stuff, right? Which is kind of interesting because she's so high strung. I mean, what's really great about
it was Odin choosing to do the Thor trial instead of Hela.
Yeah, instead of banishing her to hell.
Yeah.
She goes to hell in that main one. And you know, she has that crown with the horns, which she loses. I mean, the best thing about that movie is how awesome Cate Blanchett looks in that costume and that headdress, that crown, right? And like,
isn't it Benedict in that one? If so, that's in my opinion the best part of that one. No, I'm mixing up Thor movies then. Okay.
Yeah, it was okay at best. I agree wholeheartedly that it was okay at best. And it's a lot better than much of what was to come in the MCU, like every movie of the last 2 years. But you know, and then of course the ending is very interesting. That in the end, Odin and she reconcile, and she learns something. He gets her crown, and Hela becomes queen. And she vows that she's going to release the 9 realms to each become their own, like, you know, realm of their own or whatever. She's going to ensure everybody's freedom, and you know, she's actually gonna even like, she's gonna like save Gamora. Like when Thanos attacks Gamora's planet, like she becomes this real force for good and freedom in the known universes or whatever. It's a total switcheroo of that. That was the last good one because I hated the last 2 episodes. I hated 16. This is 1602. This is the image that
I like 1602.
The image. It's interesting to me that the image that Disney made available in the press kit for 1602 was this picture of Scarlet Witch, and not like all the people who are trapped in, like everybody gets trapped in 1602, right? Like the title is of this episode is what if the Avengers assembled in 1602, and Peggy Carter shows up there, and like basically everybody's stuck in 1602, right? Nick Fury's in 1602, Loki's in 1602, Hela's there, Tony's there, everybody's there. I thought the story was a little thin. It never was really kind of clear to me how they got there, how the tear was sucking them out, and there's some bad. There's some omen that somebody called the Forerunner is behind it or whatever. Like I didn't really like, and like I don't understand if Thor has the time stone, why are they stuck there? Or they don't even know they're stuck there, right? Like Tony Stark appears to really be from 1602, right? Like I was very confused if they got blooped in time, if they were already, if this is just a timeline where the Avengers emerged in 1602. It just kind of made no sense to me. And they're like, Peggy, you need to fix it. And when she can't fix it, Thor's like, Peggy, you suck. We need to kill you. Right? Like, like the whole thing to me was, I don't know, AJ, maybe you understood it better and can articulate better what was going on.
They were, from the way I saw it, they were all already there. The only one that got pulled in was Peggy by Scarlet Witch. The thing that I liked about it, 1602 was it felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was watching an episode of Robin Hood. Like some Robin Hood TV show or movie or something. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also really liked all the Peggy and Steve stuff.
I mean, I liked it, and it definitely was a theme of the season, and it was leading into some other stuff, right? But and yeah, so he was like he was Robin Hood, and even says like my maid Margaret is gone, but your maid Peggy, whatever, and it like I don't know. To me, I had a hard time following. Like I guess they all were from 1602. I don't know how Thor. Thor's not. He just showed up there. Thor. I did like Thor's costume. Like Thor had his Thor clothes on, but he had those he had like a puffy shirt on with his costume.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't. It was kind of all over the place. And Peggy, and then Doctor Strange like shows up, right? It's definitely a lead into the. Okay, Beamer's explaining to me because clearly I don't understand what I watch. There's a tear due to a difference in the fight between Steve and Thanos. So the fight between Steve and Thanos caused a tear, which blooped them to 1602. But they seem to not know they came to 1602. They thought, like, Tony Stark definitely thinks he's from 1602 in this episode. He's like, tell me again about cars or something like that, he says, right? Happy Hogan is there. They're all there, right? Anyway, they do manage to get the time stone away from Thor, and they find out, it ends that Steve has to die, right? Like every time, if Steve and Peggy are in it, you know that it's going to be a sad ending. One of them's going to die. Usually he's going to die. In this version, in the film universe that we're watching, Peggy dies. In What If, it's always Steve. Steve always dies. He either like gives himself up, which he basically kind of, it was a little cuckoo. For Jamie, the big.
Okay, wait. I'm just reading now. Beamer says in the Wakanda fight, Steve hits the time stone. It caused Rip to change things,
yes.
And he didn't realize what happened.
Steve, you're right. Steve, they show Steve fighting in that big Wakanda fight from like in Endgame, Infinity War, whatever.
This has a lot of stuff going on. I'm trying to follow what you guys are talking about. And having not seen
it, they show the fight, and Steve like goes to hit Thanos with his vibranium shield, but he accidentally hits the gauntlet, and he like hits the time stone with his shield by mistake. And it like flicks it out or cracks it or whatever happens. And when he hits that time stone, that's when it causes the rip that changes everything. And they go to 1602, but they go to like an alt 1602 where they don't realize what happened. And he just thinks he's from there, and he thinks he's Robin Hood or whatever. He gets put into a very Steve-ish personality, right? In 1602. I just watched this like today. How is it that like 8 hours later, I need someone to explain it to me? That to me is a problem with the show. I wasn't, I was watching it. It was
because it was magic. Karen doesn't like magic.
I don't like magic.
She wasn't paying attention.
I don't like magic. I want science.
How do you not like magic, but like Harry Potter?
Or at least pseudoscience. I like pseudoscience.
No, I know. I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, I know. Jamie,
I don't know, but I'm completely lost trying to follow what you guys are saying because without seeing this episode, none of it makes sense. No, but Jamie, I'm trying to listen to what you're saying, but I'm getting completely lost.
For Jamie,
the main thing I heard was Benedict was, well, at least Doctor Strange was in it. That's what I heard.
TLDR.
Benedict Cumberbatch is in it. Jamie needs to watch it.
Doctor Strange shows up at the end, and Doctor Strange is the main bad guy of the final episode because it's the What If. Remember how Strange became like,
it figures the ones I don't watch are the ones I should have watched, right? But I watched it in order. It was good. I'll have to go finish it.
I hated this episode. AJ, talk about it. I can't talk anymore.
You need to flip the picture if you're so we're less confused.
Okay.
No.
Does somebody have a daycare center going on in their backyard, in their back of their room there? That's better.
It's AJ Strong phone speakers, I guess, because I'm in the living room alone. So
okay, I don't know how you guys heard that because I didn't even hear what the hell was just going on, and I'm here.
I don't know, AJ. I just know I'm alone, so you can't blame me.
It was a cat.
It was a cat.
Oh, that was a good point.
And I think, much like children, you'll learn to tune things out.
So here's
This
ID
is true.
Yeah, we can
No, I
only
can
hear
hear Alyssa. Is that Alyssa?
Yes, we hear you.
Now
Stop
it is.
talking.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, they can hear
Everybody
you.
hears you.
Yes.
I'm gonna mute you, AJ.
Yeah,
I just muted
everybody
him.
can hear you.
I just muted him. He can unmute himself when they leave the room.
And Vi Beamer says they weren't happy with Strange Supreme becoming the bad guy again. See, this is the one I should have watched, and then I could comment on it.
I'm inclined to agree. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I mean, basically, the whole point of they needed a powerful enemy, so basically they made Supreme Strange bad again, so that they could bring Kahori in, and her and Peggy could save the day.
Yeah, and I think it was a regression for Strange. Like, to the premise is that Strange can't live without his true love, and he's trying to recreate his former universe to bring her back. And the only way he can do it, Jamie, is by catching every universe-destroying villain from every universe and feeding them into this forge, basically a big oven that's it's silly. But I think, in short, I think this idea that he can't live without her and has to, like, commit, like, terrible, terrible acts to bring her back is a step back in his character development across many media, right?
Also, doesn't he end up getting married to in the comic book universe, to somebody else?
Okay, yeah, I mean, he thinks he can do it. He thinks it's the only way he can do that. Turns out there's a better way, but I mean, regardless
was that sound effect on purpose, or was that just background noise? It
was awesome. Regardless,
yeah, I know, it fit right in there.
I think Strange learned that lesson in the comic books. He learned that lesson in What If last year. He learned that lesson in the movies. He Strange.
Yeah, it seems
like,
strange they're doing it again.
It's not original territory for his grief, and they made him the anti-Peggy, whereas Peggy's grief for Steve results in them always do the right. Steve and Peggy are so freaking perfect, and they always do the right thing and sacrifice themselves or each other, right? And Strange they make to be this, like, very selfish guy who, like, does everything always to be with this woman who he kind of treated shitty in the first place. Clea. I think that's her name. Yeah. It's also AJ's muted again. Did I mute him? Did he mute himself?
I muted myself.
Oh, sorry, AJ. You sound quiet now. I mean, I don't know. Did you agree? Did you not like Strange's development or the very convoluted story? There was kind of an awesome fight scene.
The fight scene was great.
Yeah.
But his like you said, it feels like he's regressed.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun seeing some of these many. All right, now we got some typing going on. That might be Jamie.
Responding to
yeah.
Although I can't spell that actress's name, but
it was fun seeing all the villains, and I liked there was that kind of scene that reminded me of Gandalf on the Balrog, where, like, Peggy and
you
Steve,
shall not pass. Is that what he said?
Where they're falling and falling and fighting and falling. But in general, I just felt like it went on and on. Like, most of this episode was Peggy fighting various things that Strange threw at her, and then she gets some help when Kahori from the previous episode shows up to help her, and they, then we have an overpowered Strange versus an overpowered Kahori. And it seems like every time it gets over, like, some more stuff happens, and it I don't know, it felt like it went on, and like, did I need to see? It was seriously like 15 minutes of fighting, right? It was kind of long.
I'm okay with that.
It was kind of a lot. And then every time he thought, I did like when Strange was like, I'm going to make myself into like 50 Stranges. And Corey's like, oh, good idea. And she makes herself and Peggy into like 50 of themselves. It was a little. So am I correct that there's an element of this where the Watcher didn't see it coming, which is so not the point of the Watcher, right?
The Watcher is supposed to see everything.
Right? And the Watcher.
He's watching, so he doesn't know what's going to happen. If you know what's going to happen, why are you watching?
That's a good
point.
Well,
and that's an element of also like Peggy actually complains to Strange that like, oh, that Watcher is so annoying. He's like, you got to watch, not intervene. That's so dumb. And Steven's like, I'm going to totally intervene. And Peggy intervenes, right? Like Peggy intervenes and Steven intervenes to like save various universes. And they're kind of like, oh, that Watcher, man, he's such a downer. The Watcher's a bummer. It ends, Jamie, with a Doctor Who moment where after Strange is like defeated, he's not defeated. He kind of like, in the end, Strange sacrifices himself, right? He dies in the end, or this version of him dies in this one. And the Watcher's like, all right, I'm going to take you home, Peggy. And she's like, oh, do we have to go right home, or could you show me the multiverse? Like, give me a tour of the multiverse. It's like Doctor Who and his companion. Like, it's like, should we go home? No, let's check out the multiverse before we go home.
Yeah. Beamer said the first season made sense when Ultravision attained that higher awareness, and the Watcher didn't realize it right away. Yeah, I remember that vaguely. Yeah. I'm trying to connect it. I do remember that. But yeah, that I agree with you. That does actually, that makes me more think about Clara when you said that about when she didn't die yet, like she still had what was left of that moment before she went back.
Yeah.
But back to Beamer, or Beamer said it didn't make sense, wasn't watching this develop. Yeah, the Watcher should have been watching it all, but I'll have to watch this and then give you guys my full comments, because I'm like commenting and haven't seen it. But
the Watcher's like a Time Lord who doesn't. I mean, you should watch it for.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely gonna watch it. I would have watched it today, but I was trying to fix my computer, so
the longest one is like
I can do my interview.
Bang it out.
Yeah, they're not long. I know. I am gonna watch it. Actually, if I didn't have more screeners tonight, I'd watch it tonight. But I'm probably already gonna be up late watching what I have to watch. So, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just felt this last episode was like the writers were sitting around like getting high in the writers' room, and then what if like dog versions of themselves show up, and then what if they make 50 of each other? And then, I just made that up. They don't make
dogs. Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, what?
Saying they were like throwing every crazy idea of every kind of fight they can have, and every kind of villain they can be, and every kind of old person who could show up, and they just were throwing all this. Like, there was some good animation of it, but I'm like, oh my god, like, did you not have enough story? Do you have to fill up the time with like extra random fighting? It was a little. It just went on a little long for me.
Well, there is a season 3. I just looked it up. I was curious. So it is coming back. Oh, that reminds me.
Soon actually.
One of the episodes had a Did any more of the episodes have the post-credit scene? I don't even remember which one it was. No. One of the two I watched had a little post-credit.
Yeah.
I think it must have been the Stark one.
No, they didn't. I purposely fast-forwarded through all those credits of multiple countries and languages so I can double check. AJ, when's it coming back?
Disney goes off of it. Makes it hard.
Sometime this year. Because I guess originally it was supposed to be the second half of season 2. But because of... I'm guessing again with the writer's strike and everything, they said because it was going to be a bigger gap than they wanted to, they're just calling it season 3.
Okay.
So sometime this year, I don't know when.
All right. Well, we got one more thing on our slate tonight, which is going to be Monarch. But before we do that, since Jamie doesn't watch the show, Jamie, do you have some SciFiVision.com updates or anything?
Yes, I was just going to say the other show and it just started. Again, this is not science fiction or anything, but Belgravia, the next chapter is what my next thing is that I have interviews with the leads with tomorrow. So that started. That is like sort of, it's made by Julian Fellows. So it's another sort of like
Wait, what's it
Downton
called?
Abbey type show. Belgravia. Well, this is the next chapter. This is like the sort of like a season 2 / spinoff, because it's about a different group of people in a different time. But anyway, that's what is on my radar right now. Not that that's sci-fi, but that's what I'm going to be doing. And then also more La Brea, but you guys don't watch that either. So The Way Home, which I had mentioned before,
I know you love that. Yeah.
starts on the 21st. And I am going to try to, maybe next week, if people are interested, we can play a little bit of the clips from SkyMed. Without having my computer and everything, I couldn't get the rest of the video edited. I got the one edited because the one interview for SkyMed is up, but they're not, all 3 of them aren't. So I didn't have enough to put it on the show tonight. But people can at least go see that now, because it's at least on the site, and we'll see after the fact. But
okay.
But yeah. And then The Way Home will be coming.
Well, and also, so we should make sure everybody knows that Quantum Leap is coming back on Tuesday, January 20th. It's moving to Tuesdays.
Oh, cool.
From Wednesdays.
It's cool. Only 4 days.
Except that our show is on Tuesdays, so we will be one whole week behind.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be a whole week late with our coverage of the show, because I don't think we can watch it at 9 and get on the air at 10.
No.
Well, I mean, we could do a little mini post show thing maybe, but it would depend if if we could do that.
That's how we've always done it. If something is on the same day as the podcast, we just save it for next week. That's how we've always done it.
Yeah. So we'll be a whole week.
I do want to mention one thing, and this is just random, but I found out about, so I was just going to mention it. Sammy from TV Grapevine. I can't talk. Grapevine.
Yes, we love Sammy.
Yeah. She co-wrote. I'm assuming it's digital. I haven't looked it up yet because I just got the message while we were doing the podcast. I haven't read the whole thing about it. But she co-wrote a book. She's having I don't know if it's like a launch party, but it's some kind of Zoom thing. I'm sure she posted about it on her site if people look. But it's Taste of TV. It's a book, 30 sassy recipes based on TV shows and movies recapped and loved by TV Grapevine, and it's illustrated by Denise Maritato. But anyway, it's the unofficial cookbook based on content from TV Grapevine. So check that out. Go to Sammy's site and check out what's up with that. Like I said, I haven't read the whole thing, everything about it yet, or I'd have more info because she did just post it. But I haven't
maybe we
seen
can
that,
get her
so I
on
thought
here.
I'd mention it. So yeah, I know. I was thinking of that too. Maybe she'll want to come on and talk about it.
I mean, she does TV Grapevine, but she's also Football on High Heels is her thing also, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which is like a women, like football fans kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's great. Yeah.
Yep. He's awesome. So everybody can check that out as well. All right. Well, if you guys are going to talk Monarch, I'm going to jump off because it's getting late and I really don't have anything else to contribute since I haven't seen the show at all yet.
I would like you to stay for 1 minute, Jamie.
Okay.
While I tell you guys, I know that you don't watch For All Mankind. And I, week after week.
Well, I do. I'm just behind, but go ahead.
So are you up to season 4 yet?
I don't remember what season it is. I think it was 3. I'd have to look it up. It's been a while.
So the current season is 4. And I don't really want to spoil this hard, but the final season is Earth has a colony on Mars and on the moon. And in the final season, it involves an asteroid and mining on an asteroid, and people like a lot of people are saying it's basically a prequel for The Expanse, that it involves a labor dispute. It's a labor dispute involving the Earth, Mars, and the miners on the asteroid in this massive labor dispute and a class dispute. And the season finale aired like this week. And And a lot of people are like, holy cow, is that a prequel for the Expanse? Like, wait, what just happened here? So
That's interesting. Yeah.
Put that out there for anybody who, I mean, I'm not saying you should watch 4 whole seasons of this show just because it's at a point now that, it mirrors the Expanse a little bit. You should watch it because it's good. But
yeah, I was going to say, it's not written by the same people.
No,
either,
I'm just putting it out there for you guys that,
right.
Is it an Easter? Is it a shout out? Is it an homage? Is it a coincidence? Is it inevitable that that's the way,
what happened to our future or something?
Cool. I just wanted to put it out there to you guys.
That's cool. Very cool. Yeah, that's one of the many shows that I am like super behind on, but eventually, hopefully, we'll get to see the end of. All right. Well, I think that's. Oh, I also am covering Hightown, but again, that's not sci-fi, so I know you guys won't know what I'm talking about. But all that stuff will be on SciFiVision.com. People can cool. Check it out. But I'm gonna jump. It's getting late.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think because there's nothing else I've seen other than what I've mentioned, so I don't really have a lot to contribute. But have fun. Thanks, guys. Thanks everybody who listened, especially if you listened live. We appreciate it. And I'll be back next week.
Right. Bye, Jamie.
Okay, bye,
Jamie.
Hey, AJ, before we talk about the season finale episode, can we talk about this picture and how young Kurt Russell looks in this press photo that I put up here?
He looks young. He looks young for a 90-year-old too on the show.
Well, he does. He looks younger here than he does on the show, but he looks pretty good on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that these press photos are usually photoshopped a little bit.
Yep.
Maybe a little airbrushing.
All right, so the season finale picks up right after we found out that Keiko is alive.
Yay! You know what's funny? Until we saw her, I never even considered the fact that she could be alive, even after seeing Lee down there for a week.
I never did either. We talked about this last week, how I was like, wait a minute, cockroaches the size of beavers ate her, right? How did she, no one ever, he doesn't say, how did you live? He doesn't say, wait a minute, I saw giant cockroaches attack you. He never says, anything, he never asks her, holy shit, how are you alive, right?
I think there was a part of him that after he spent time there, realized that she could have been there too.
I guess, but we saw them crawling over her. She fell because they were crawling all over her, right?
But they were crawling all over her and pulled her down doesn't necessarily mean they ate her. That's what they wanted us to think.
Yes, obviously. I guess they weren't trying to eat her. They were trying to use her as a rope to get to the top.
So, I'm going to jump right into a question that Artie and I had tonight because we just watched it before the podcast. So, she says she's been there about 56 days, and it's been 56 years.
Yep.
Okay, since she fell down the hole. So that leads to believe it's been a year for each day that she's
I'm sorry. There. Can we talk about your cat for a second? Your cat is pretty angry.
No, that was my text message, which I have a feeling was Jamie.
Okay. Sound like your cat. All right. So
yeah, it was Jamie.
So she's down there. Anyway. She says it's about 56 days. It's been about 56 years. So it appears.
Here's the problem.
I know what you're going to say. Go for it. Tell me.
Lee says he was there for a week, and he was gone 20 years.
Yeah. Because by Keiko, it seems like one day kind of is roughly 1 year, right?
Right.
He's a week and he's 20 years. So it's roughly, for him, 1 day is 3 years, roughly, kind of, right? So
somebody's math is wrong.
Or it's not linear, or the sun, it's not.
Well, all right. Let me ask you this: how many days have the three of them been there since they fell and then found Keiko? Because it's been 2 years on the outside world,
and they appear to have not even been gone a full day, right?
Yeah,
they don't spend a night. They never spend a night. They don't spend a night in a tent or anything like that. There's none of this we gotta hide. Yeah. So that they're playing a little fast and loose with the time displacement, but it's time displacement. So I guess they can get away with that because you really know, right?
but there better be a rule. There's got to be a rule.
If there's not a rule,
it's like
you and I
it's
are
like
over
our time travel shows. It's always like we always say with the time travel shows. I'm okay with all these time travel shows being different as long as they stick to the rules that they implement for themselves.
Right. There's got to be a
playing
rule.
fast and loose. When you start playing fast and loose, like, oh well, this is the rule, but we did something we shouldn't have. So here's an amendment to the rule, and that's when you start to go, all right, it doesn't work anymore.
No, I agree with you, and we don't, and maybe the Monarch people don't understand enough. Maybe, I mean, I'd like to think that if I fell down there and I was like, AJ, I haven't seen you. How long have you been down here? Wait, what? Like, we would talk about it, but I think that maybe for these people, they have other things on their mind. Maybe, I don't know. I think, Keiko was a little, I mean, she was duly shocked. It wasn't like, last week I talked about how this is a little bit like a Quantum Mania moment where Ant-Man goes down the quantum world and Michelle Pfeiffer's alive. And she totally understands that time is passing differently. Keiko, it hasn't occurred to her that time is passing differently until Lee says it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, of course. Why didn't I? I should have thought of that." She gets it right away, which helps. She has been alive down there all this time, and she built this thing. I see the picture. She built this thing, which is sending the gamma radiation messages that the curly-haired doctor in Montana. Remember that Monarch doctor's like, oh, look at these signals. It's because I don't know what she built. She built it out of a piece of
spare parts.
A piece of Lee's ship, or did this stuff come down with her when she fell into the?
It came down with her.
That went in the cockroach hole with her somehow.
Yeah.
I don't really remember her holding that or how that happened, but I can believe
that went down before that was down there already with them. They were using that to whatever they were doing.
Whatever measurements they were taking or whatever science they were doing or whatever, that went down ahead of her. So she manages to like reverse the polarity or whatever and do some stuff with it. And she makes this thing, which has been sent the messages. And it was a little, I mean, I thought it was kind of good and a little heartbreaking when she's like, she doesn't know who Kate is at first. And she's like, oh, you got my message. You're the rescue committee. You're the rescue crew. And Kate's like, no. And it takes a couple minutes before Keiko is like, oh, you didn't get my, it's a little, it was well written and the acting was pretty good in that moment where she's like, oh, that's not why you're here. It wasn't you. And she, I think look, there's not a lot of time in a show like this to show her processing and dealing with the information that she's come up with. I think they did a good enough job. Did they do a good job? No, they did a good enough job of showing her kind of dealing with the realization and figuring it out, whatever, right? And also Keiko and whoever figuring out what's going on down there also. What's my next?
Did you see it? Did you see it coming that Kurt Russell was getting left behind?
Oh, I don't know if I saw that coming, because it's so annoying and so predictable. Like maybe I thought this was not that predictable show. I thought he was going to make it. And then as soon as he didn't make it, I'm like, oh, maybe Kurt Russell only signed a contract for one season. It's really what I thought.
Well, I mean, to be fair, now that that where the hole is and how to get back and forth, all they can do is just go back down and get them.
Well, yeah, the trick is you got to lure a Titan to make a hole, go down it, get him, and get the hell out before he ages another. How much more can he age, right? Before he dies.
But you gotta remember, he's aging slower down there.
Oh yeah, he's not like he's 90 in like our years. He's like 70 in his years or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But now they know also you could get eaten down there. Because what happens down there is this. Right? This guy comes along. They're like, all we need to do is lure a Titan. And then when he goes through the portal, we follow him. And then Kurt Russell's like, oh shit, there's a Titan that's already here. Like they lured the local Titan, which was kind of a mistake. And this guy shows up who's like a flying. So one of my issues with this show is that sometimes the effects look great and sometimes they don't look good at all, right? And I thought this guy did not look that good, really. I thought the effects were bad, but I thought this was actually pretty good when you got his close-up of his face there, right?
Yeah.
Whatever he is. I didn't mind that. I don't know. How did you feel about that? When it was pretty predictable, right? That they're going to be trying to leave and, oh, we got to have a monster. We haven't seen a monster in a long time. Obviously, a monster is going to come and derail their plans. I should have seen that coming. I guess if I'd thought about it, I saw that coming, right? We saw it coming. Did you see it coming?
Sometimes I'm in that aspect. I hadn't really thought about it. I was thinking, ooh, what monster we're gonna see? That's what Titan are we gonna see come down? I never crossed my mind that it would lure a Titan that was already there. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was, and it was kind of a mistake. And it was like Kurt Russell's like, I never thought of that, right? Like this Titan. Yeah. The whole idea is you have to follow a Titan through the portal. And like, I guess it never occurred to him that there's like local Titans just hanging out, not moving or whatever, right?
But it did work because Godzilla showed up.
Boom! There he is. And so Godzilla always looks good. Like sometimes I think the effects aren't great. The water effects are never good, but they're difficult on every show. But Godzilla always looks good, right? And then Godzilla shows up. He comes down through this like whatever, it's like a crystal elevator that he comes down from wherever he is. And the fight scene was pretty decent.
Oh yeah.
Like I thought that little bat, he wasn't that little, he's smaller than Godzilla, the little bat guy, pterodactyl guy, this guy, I figured he sees Godzilla, he takes off. He's like, oh, I want to eat Kurt Russell. Oh no, here's Godzilla, let me go. But he's like, oh hell no, Godzilla. You're not, I gotta defend my snack. And he gets in this fight. This guy, Batman, he like flies right at Godzilla and bites his neck immediately, right? He goes right and bites Godzilla's neck. And then Godzilla's like, whatever. Godzilla ends up like ripping his arms off basically and killing him.
Wings.
Right? Yeah, his wings, not his arms. And that's when the whole thing happens where these guys are back here sitting in all happy in here, get ready to go. And then like, oh, the plug comes unplugged and Kurt Russell's got to jump outside. And now the whole thing is getting ready to take off. And
now, funny thing, I don't know if you caught it, but I totally, and I don't know if it was intentional, but that scene when he's trying to put the plug back together and just won't quite reach as he's trying to plug it back in. Total Back to the Future moment.
Oh, it is. Yes, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
I caught it immediately. I said to Artie, I was like, what does that remind you of? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, Back to the Future. And he was like, huh? And then I was like, the clock tower scene.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, wow. He's like, yeah. I was like, and the plugs are even the same.
They were. Maybe they got them out of the props closet.
So I don't know if there was a little shout out homage there, a little inside thing for these guys, like big fans of Back to the Future or something. But I gotta if it was intentional or not, I got a kick out of it.
For a minute, I thought maybe he should stick his finger in both sockets and complete the circuit and make himself like the human wire and fry himself. I mean, I knew he wouldn't, but I was like, that's a way to do it, right?
Yeah.
At any rate, he eventually does it. Kurt Russell manages to, or I should say Lee manages to complete it. And now he's like, now the little, whatever it is, the space, it's not a spaceship, but the ship is now it's starting to leave. It's following Godzilla. It's moving. And and he has to run, and Keiko's like, "Run, Lee, run!" And we recreate the scene where, previously where she was falling, and I think Lee didn't have her hand. Bill had her hand, right? Did Lee have her hand when she falls into the roach pit? And it's like, don't let go. And, this is the opposite where she's holding Lee's hand and she's like, don't let go, Lee. And Lee's like, no, it's too heavy, which is ridiculous because it was built to carry 4 people. Why it's too heavy, I don't know. But Lee's like, no, and he sacrifices himself. He literally pries her fingers.
Not for nothing. I'm not sure if all of Lee would have made it out or just his arm if she'd held on to him the whole time. Because you think about the way that the capsule pops out of the ground and it kind of bounces along the pavement. That would have been Lee bouncing along the pavement, even if he made it through.
Fair enough.
And it closed right away. As soon as the capsule came through, it closed.
It did.
So if he's hanging on the bottom, does it close? You know what I mean? Like, what happens if you're on the, I don't know.
Well, and he was in love with her, and he is still in love with her.
Oh, absolutely.
But they can't be together. She's 35, and he's like
70.
Somewhere between 75 and 100, depending upon which timeline you're using, right? They don't really, and they've been through too much, and she chose whatever. There's too much water under that bridge for them to be together. So he chooses to, I guess it. So that's a cliffhanger, I guess, for next season.
I think.
Will they go back and get him,
I think for Lee, the main thing is he finally was able to save her.
And he has closure. He knows she's alive and she's going to be safe.
Yeah.
His character arc could be done. It
could be.
Kurt Russell could be. Lee Shaw could be out of the show because what more is there for him to do, right?
Now, here's the great kicker. All right. So now we know it's been 2 years later.
Wait. I got a slide. So they go home.
Oh, okay. There you go.
They come back.
2 years later. So now it's 2017. And the last shot, we have the whole happy reunion. Oh, hi, Mommy. My boy, you've grown. But the best part, do you have a slide of what I'm going to say next?
Yes. Yes.
As soon as he said it's been 2 years later, I said, well, that's when Skull Island was. And then you see them pan to the name of the, it says Skull Island, whatever on the side of the ship.
You can't see it in here, right? You don't see Skull Island in this shot. Yeah.
And I was like, well, 2017 was Skull Island, and then sure enough, as it progresses through the rest of the scene, they're on Skull Island.
I mean, it makes sense that Skull Island would become a Monarch outpost, and maybe always has been. Like the movie takes place in the 70s. That's where Bill Randa disappeared.
That's where Randa disappeared, yeah. And that's the other thing. And it's funny because that's what we've been talking about. We're like, where does season 2 go? Do they just do a time jump? Does it make sense for these characters just to still be around for the other stuff? And here I think we've kind of got our answer. So, but here's the thing. Every time they need to do a time jump, do they go back down to the realm of Titans and then pop up 2 years later? Because Godzilla King of Monsters is in 2019. So we've got another 2 years to play around.
And meanwhile, Godzilla X Kong is coming out this coming summer of 24?
This summer, yeah.
Right? And when is that set, right? Because we've all seen Godzilla King of the Monsters in 2019. So there's 2 years to that. And then the new movie's got to be set in, I don't know, sometime between 2019 and 2025, right?
So it was probably 2022. And we're getting one like every 2 years. Godzilla vs. Kong was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and so I feel like Monarch can't do significant time jumps with its cast, right? It's not like so you don't watch For All Mankind, but they are very committed to time jumps and to aging makeup. I would have to say that Joel Kinnaman is wearing some of the worst aging makeup I've seen on television in a long time since The Americans. Remember when they would wear those crappy like wigs and shit in the Americans? But like For All Mankind will routinely skip 5, 10, 15, even 20 years and commit their characters to gray hair and stuff like that. It's a different show. This show is not going to age these kids more than like this was a 2-year time jump. You don't have to have Kentaro and Kate have any makeup or anything. They went from being 20 to 22 years old. I pretty much looked the same.
In Kate's case, she didn't age at all.
Oh no, because she was in the alternate world. She was
right.
in the Monarch, in the Monsterverse or whatever we're calling that place, the Hollow World, for like a day. So she didn't age at all. Kentaro doesn't appear to have aged one bit. He looked exactly the same because he's a young man.
Yeah. Well, it's only been 2 years.
He was like 18 or 20 whatever. Now he's 22. And all the other characters, you can get away with it. Like you could, the beardy guy. What's that beardy guy's name?
Hero?
No. The guy. I want to see
Tim. Tim.
I mean, you put a few more gray hairs in Tim's beard, and you're fine, right? And like all the adults don't really have to age that much either. You could a 2-year time jump is fine. 5 years, now you're starting to get into it. 10 years, 15 years. This is not that show. But if we're at 17, King of the Monsters is 19, we got to have at least 4 years probably before the new. Doesn't mean the show has to go there. The show could still lag behind, right? The show is.
Right.
Here's another question. If we think Lee Shaw's arc is done, right? And I'd be okay if I don't see Lee Shaw again. I think you are correct that he had a complete character arc. And he achieved what he wanted to. And if he keeps living down there, or if I'm Lee Shaw, do I just let Godzilla eat me and be like, whatever, that's fine? Does that mean that the 1954 storyline has pretty much run its course also, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
What more is there to see from that? Did you just say unfortunately? Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the 50s.
I did too, and I don't think there's anything more to be learned from that, right?
Well, no, there can't be. I mean, her character isn't even in you know what I mean? Like she's
done. She disappeared. Yeah. She was gone. Everybody else dies. I mean, could there be a little bit of John Goodman, like Bill Randa, John Goodman? Maybe what happens to Bill Randa after she dies before he becomes John Goodman on Skull Island in the 70s? Maybe that could be a thing, right?
Could be.
I mean, that's the next stage of development of like in 1963, Lee Shaw goes into the hollow world, and he's not seen again until 82. Presumably Bill Randa's doing something in those 20 years. If I'm the writers, that's my window maybe to, right?
Especially now. I mean, we could get some flashbacks of that because they're now on Skull Island. Bill Randa spent a lot of time on Skull Island, so we could be.
Yep.
I don't know if that's their plan, then I'm sure they've already got John Goodman under contract. They haven't just haven't told us yet if that's their plan.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they don't have to do. But you're right; they don't have to do it at all. We don't need a past storyline.
No.
But it could be Bill Randa, John Goodman.
It could be fun though.
That could be the next fun thing. That's the next chunk of time to fill in. And I think what's also missing, which I don't really care that much about, is Hiroshi from being that kid that we saw at the nuclear test to becoming the guy who
I don't think we really need to see that either.
He's a believer, but he's estranged from Monarch. I don't need to see that now. But the John Goodman thing could be a cool thing, maybe.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah. So
anyway,
that was the end of that.
Good times.
So that's done. What If is done. Next week we'll finish Echo. Maybe we'll pick up a few new things. We, True Detective.
Quantum Leap. Oh, yes, that's what I wanted to tell you. So when you asked about that, I didn't realize that it premiered. So I actually watched it last night, the first episode.
Yeah.
It's good, but really weird. Like I'm not really sure what the hell's going on.
The reviews are mixed.
Weird.
The reviews are mixed. But I don't think there's been no complaints about the acting, right? I'm looking forward to it.
No, I mean, no. It's just like I said, it's weird. I only saw the first season, so I don't know what seasons 2 and 3 were like.
Oh, really?
But there seems to be some kind of supernatural element in this one.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not really. It's weird.
Well,
maybe it'll make more sense as it goes, but you should definitely check it out.
I mean, we'll probably pick that up for next week. We'll have some more Echo. Quantum Leap will air the day of our podcast, so we won't cover it. But there's other stuff around. We'll post our show a little sooner and post some things we're going to watch. Because there's still a bunch of stuff that we're trying to talk about that haven't gotten to yet. Right? So watch the space.
All right. Another successful night. After some confusion. One of these nights we're gonna fly. One of these nights we're gonna fly right through with no problem.
I mean, it was so we're still new on StreamYard. This was only our second week, and I created the wrong
third
thing.
week, but
I said it's our third week.
It wasn't a problem.
I set it up wrong.
Minor oversight.
We'll fix it up next week. Maybe we'll put on some lipstick and be on video next week.
All depends on what time Jamie goes to bed.
Yep. All right.
Jamie's like, I don't want 10 o'clock hair.
I gotta wake up tomorrow at like super early in the morning because I am going down. I live in Baltimore, and I am going down at the Ravens Stadium. They are stenciling cars with Ravens logos beginning at. You can get in the line starting at 6 a.m. and they basically like have a stencil and they'll spray your back windshield or the side of your car with like a Ravens logo. So I got to get down there at 6 a.m. and get in line to get my car all stenciled. I did it for the Orioles also. So I gotta get all ready for the game. So when I talk to you next week, we will have won our next game and I will tell you all about getting my car set up.
Sure you will.
Sure. All right.
Listen, the way these games have been going, are they the favorites or are they the underdog? Because if you're the favorite, you're probably going to lose.
Well, we clinched first place. We're first place in the AFC.
You'll lose somewhere.
We didn't lose
after what happened. Yeah, I know. I was saying that's what I'm saying. After what happened to the Cowboys, and then the Eagles.
No, because the Bills won and they were number 2 seed, and the Bills won.
Oh, that's true. They were number 2 seed. Yeah, that's right.
And you can't stop Lamar.
Yeah, but they were.
You can't stop Lamar Jackson. Shut up.
Lamar Jackson is overhyped. Not as overhyped as Deshaun Watson, but that's another story.
I mean, you could argue that every quarterback is overhyped. There's an argument to be.
No, that's not true. Oh no, I agree because people still think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
I digress. All right. Good night, Karen. Go get in line.
All right.
And we'll talk to everybody again next week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please join us again. Michael says sports. Michael, we end up talking about everything eventually.
Michael's got a sports show, I think. That's why he's asking. He's on the NDB Media has a sports show, which everybody should listen to. There's so many great shows on NDB Media, right? And there's a sports show. It's called Sports. What's it called? Monday Night Sports, or Michael will post it in a second because I'm not getting the name wrong. But there are sports guys on NDB, so check them out. And someday I will come on there and be like, I told you guys about the Ravens. Here's Michael.
I was going to say, here's Michael now.
Hi, Michael. Did you not expect to be promoted? Should I remove you?
No. I can do things to you too. So we won't talk about that.
Right? NDB has a sports show, right?
Yeah. See, I can do things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have the same power you do, Karen. So
Sorry, I thought you want to talk about NDB Media's weekly sports show, but if
and because I don't deal with the sports show, so.
Oh, you're like us. You're an entertainment guy. All right. With that said, everybody check out NDB Media if you like sports, and we'll all be back next week to talk about TV.
All right. Good night.
Bye. Gonna remove everybody. Remove.